Broadcasting live from somewhere in the Shadow Realm, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links Talk. Here's your host, Doug Dimmaduel.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links Talk. Today, we're going to look at a Chaz Princeton inspired deck. This one's floating around on the deck board, and it's called OJAMA Party. I kind of like that. Sounds like a play on Pajama Party. And this one looks like a lot of fun. Just in general, I mean, I've gone against a few of these decks. I went second turn. First turn, they send out the OJAMA King, and I really don't have anything to really counter that, and I got a scoop and end game. So, yeah, being on the other end of that is not the most fun thing, but going with one of these OJAMA decks should be fun. So I want to take a look at at least this deck build. I will share a screenshot of the deck list on Twitter once once the episode posts. So I'll go ahead and send a reply to that one. That way you can see the actual deck list. I'm trying to keep up with that now. I'm trying to be mindful. Milt, I know you're doing a good job pointing that out when I keep on forgetting to post the actual deck lists. So yeah, I'm going to have that posted. So we're going to go through this one here, and there are a lot of the typical staples. You're going to get 3 copies of OJAMA Black. You're going to get 3 copies of OJAMA Yellow and 3 copies of OJAMA 3. So what you want to do is hopefully at least have one of each in your hand or to some variation of it so that you could at least get an OJAMA Knight out or ultimately an OJAMA King out onto the field. But there are a few extra pieces. This player here runs Beast King of the Swamps. If you don't remember this one, it's a level 4 Aqua with 1000 attack, 1100 defense. You can substitute this card for any one fusion material monster. When you do this, the other fusion material monsters must be the correct ones. So if you got 2 pieces of your 3 OJAMAs and you're still missing one, Beast King of the Swamps can step in. But also, too, an even better card is King of the Swamp, and this player runs 1 copy. They must have got 1 copy. It's the level 3 Aqua, 500 attack, 1100 defense. This card can be used as a substitute for any one fusion material whose name is specifically listed on the fusion monster card, but the other fusion materials must be correct. You can discard this card to the graveyard and add 1 polymerization from your hand to your deck. That's why this card is so good, not just because it has the same effect as the Beast King of the Swamps, but because you're able to discard it to search for polymerization if maybe you have enough of the other pieces already in your hand, but you are missing your polymerization. So, yeah, this thing works really, really well. And I like having that one in there. Another staple here is at least a 1 copy of OJAMA Blue. It's the super rare level 2 beast. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can add 2 OJAMA cards from your deck to your hand, and this can include OJAMA Muscle. So that's another option here. Some people will run multiple copies of OJAMA Blue. This deck only runs the 1 copy, and it's not so bad. But just keep in mind, too, that this deck does run, as its skill, Land of the OJAMAs, and it makes sense. So with Chaz Princeton, you do have Land of the OJAMAs. It starts the duel with OJAMA Country on the field, and that's the field spell card, where once per turn, you can send 1 OJAMA card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon 1 OJAMA monster from your graveyard. While you control a face-up OJAMA monster, switch the original attack and defense of all monsters on the field. So yeah, this one's pretty good, and having that on the field works out well. This deck also runs an additional copy just in case the opponent runs some kind of spell removal, and they're able to get rid of that field spell. That way, you're not just kind of stuck there with a 0 attack monster, because OJAMA King and OJAMA Knight both sit there with a 0 attack but a very high defense. So when you're able to swap those, that's when you really get to do some damage. But anyway, other spells include Enchanting Fitting Room. It's a super rare where you pay 800 life points and pick up 4 cards from the top of your deck and special summon to your side of the field all the level 3 or lower normal monsters among the picked cards. Return all the other picked cards to your deck, and the deck is then shuffled. So that's good as far as filling your field, hopefully being able to get a fusion play going. And then you get 2 copies of Enemy Controller. That's just a typical standard staple. If you're not able to get them, try utilizing your ranked duel PvP tickets that you're able to earn. Some of the super rare tickets, Enemy Controller is usually available, so you can acquire it that way. This deck also runs the standard 3 copies of Polymerization. It's good because then it can be searched out by your King of the Swamp. You want to get a Polymerization in your hand as soon as possible, but then this deck also runs a copy of Fusion Recovery. You target 1 Polymerization and 1 fusion material that was used for a fusion summon in your graveyard and add them to your hand. So this gives you some kind of recycling aspect, and you're able to kind of take advantage of that. So what I'm seeing here is, as far as the extra deck goes, and I would add on more copies of each of these cards, but this deck only runs 1 of each. It runs 1 copy of OJAMA King, level 6 beast, 0 attack, 3000 defense. The fusion requires OJAMA Green, OJAMA Yellow, and OJAMA Black, but you select up to 3 of your opponent's monster card zones, and those selected zones can't be used. So you really want to take advantage of this when your opponent has no monsters on their side of the field. Ideally, you want to see this as a first turn play, if you can. That way, by the time your opponent's turn starts, they can't even put down any monsters unless they're able to maybe use a Tribute of the Doomed or something to try and get rid of your OJAMA King. But from that regard, this could really set you up for success. If you don't have all the pieces, OJAMA Knight is your other option for a fusion play. This is a level 5 beast, 0 attack, 2500 defense. It requires 1 OJAMA monster and 1 other OJAMA monster. You select up to 2 of your opponent's monster card zones, and the selected zones cannot be used. So with a 2500 defense, you activate your OJAMA Country, or you have that on the field. Now you're talking about a 2500 attack, 0 defense monster, while taking up 2 of your opponent's monster zones. So this card works out really, really well if you're in a pinch too. Like I said, if you're able to go ahead and farm Chaz Princeton, you're able to start going up against him more often at the duel gate. You should, more often than not, get more cards or more copies of OJAMA Knight. As of right now, I only have 1 copy, but I was lucky enough to get a 2nd copy of OJAMA King. So, and I really haven't farmed Chaz Princeton all that much yet. So, because I do want to get multiple copies of OJAMA Blue, and hopefully get another copy of Enchanted Fitting Room, something along those lines. But the OJAMA archetype is pretty good. It's a pretty good gimmick. It's pretty one-dimensional as to the strategy, but again, you really want to do everything that you can by setting up your deck to try and get a fusion play as quickly as possible. And that's really the end game here. So this whole OJAMA deck, it can cause a lot of frustration for your opponents. You will get quite a few rage quits, a whole lot of scoops. I know I've been on the other end of those when I run a deck that's not really built to handle. It's really built to handle the OJAMA play style. And it could really screw you over. But the thing is, if you're going up against an opponent who is somewhat prepared for this deck, you may run into a lot of trouble against those types of players. Typically, I tend to watch out for players I tend to have a lot of success against OJAMA decks if I'm running stuff like Floodgate, Trap Hole, something along those lines that put the monster face down. That way the effect is inactive. Then that kind of ruins the whole strategy of an OJAMA deck. But still, when you're sitting out there with a 3,000 attack or 3,000 defense or a 2,500 defense monster, you can still hold its own. So nothing to complain about. Unless OJAMA Country's out, then you're sitting with a 0 defense, sitting in face down defense position. But there's still a lot of factors. That's what's so interesting about the game right now. It seems like there are so many different variations of good decks. It's kind of like a rock paper scissors, where just some of the matchups inherently are not going to be good for you, or really not going to be good for your opponent. So this is just one of those fun decks. I definitely recommend you trying to level up your Chaz Princeton, or trying to farm your Chaz Princeton, and hopefully get a lot of these cards that you would need to build yourself a solid OJAMA Party deck. And this one's a real fun one. I definitely recommend trying it out, and definitely causing some frustration in ranked and casual duels. So I think this is a fun one. If you have your own version of an OJAMA deck that you found a lot of success with, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to tweet me on Twitter at YuGiOh Deck Talk. It's all one word, at YuGiOh Deck Talk, and I'd love to hear from you. But anyway, that's it for today's episode. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.